Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV and Radio, where wisdom meets experience. Join a dynamic lineup of thought leaders, professionals, and changemakers from around the world. Dr. Madeline Chan from the UK, Mariska Dupreya from Australia, Red O'Loughlin from Texas, USA, Carolyn Heward from the UK, Zunette Lub from Cape Town, South Africa, as they share expert insights, personal journeys, and impactful strategies for success. Talking Heads isn't just a show, it's a global stage for education, collaboration, and inspiration. So elevate your knowledge, expand your perspective, engage in conversations that matter. Streaming globally, empowering locally, this is Talking Heads, only on USA Global TV and Radio.
Howdy, Red O'Loughlin here. We're on Talking Heads on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Topics sometimes come to me with some aspect of health or wellness, cancer, stroke. They just kind of flow in and out. But sometimes a topic comes in, goes out, comes in, goes out. And the topic I have today is on microplastics. And I talk about the invisible microplastic, invisible meaning they're so small we really can't see them, and the domino effect, because when you start a domino effect of something happening, it's almost impossible to stop it. But as the USA Global TV and Radio Network puts on every show, we're here for awareness, education, and at some point in time, maybe action on the behalf of the viewer. So let me go ahead and get started with my slideshow here. Let me load it up. So we're talking about the invisible microplastic domino effect. And I'm going to go into microplastics and nanoplastics, where they come from, what do they do in the body, what health issues are, what options you have. So we've got to cover a fair amount of that today. Everything today is live streaming. We're on Amazon Fire, Zizzle TV, E360 TV, YouTube, Android and Apple TV, social media. I have 2 simulcasts going on my social media accounts and more. And again, for awareness and education. Next, let's see, here we go. My website, redolaughlin.com, R-E-D, like the color R-E-D, Red O'Loughlin, O-L-A-U-G-H-L-I-N, redolaughlin.com. You can find all my contact information there and my books everywhere that you need to buy them. I have a number of different sites that can be bought at. And my preferred, just send me an email. Give me a call on the phone. If you call me on the phone, leave a message. So those are the 2 things I ask. And we'll pop over to the next one. All the shows that I do and all the shows that are available on USA Global TV and Radio Network, the live streams are seen under the YouTube banner, under the YouTube tab of streams. The archives are there. You can search any previous show I've done. And then I have many archive shows also available on my website. I'm a researcher. I've never been in the medical or pharmaceutical field. I fell in love with chemistry sophomore year in high school. Several years later, I met my wife and fell in love with her. But chemistry's always been my first love. My first degree, I ended up with a total of 5 academic degrees, all in different subjects, several professional certifications. I don't think any of them have anything to do with chemistry. But I was in the Navy for 31 years, flew for 16 of those, been to over 60 countries. But nowadays, what I really enjoy doing is diving into a health problem, a health issue. I love longevity, age-related issues. And I look in the cellular level in the body, chemically speaking, I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat symptoms, and you're treating the symptoms, but the cause is still there. You may feel better, look better, but the cause is still there. Uh, my wife and I have been married 57 years, a couple kids, 3 grandkids, and our first great grandson now just over a year and a half. Best-selling author of several books, independent publisher of over 50 books for people, distinguished Toastmaster. I was talking to my daughter this morning about having a goal way back when to have over 1,000 LinkedIn articles. So that was my goal. I sat down, I wrote them over 630, I think, in a row. I need to continue that habit again. Everything I'm doing today is for educational purposes on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. I'm considered an international TV host. Last year, I was rated on a couple of my shows as number 2 or number 6. For the first 6 months of this year, I was rated number 1. One of my books, The Joy of Ageless Health, is one that goes into the details at the cellular level in the body, what causes disease. And since the Microsoft, it's not Microsoft, it's microplastics. Oh my goodness. I just saw that for the first time. I wonder how many other places I ended up making that same error. Okay, it is what it is, live TV. Okay, well, at least I got microplastic on that one. So let's just go ahead and start out. What is microplastic or nanoplastic? It's a tiny piece of plastic. Generally speaking, if it's micro, it's 5 millimeters in diameter or smaller. If it's 1 millimeter in diameter or smaller, it's a nanoplastic. Now, the difference is the size allows it to get through certain holes. So the big risk of microplastics is it gets in the body and can go to a lot of places. But over time, you start getting these nanoplastics in the body too, and they can go literally right into the cells, and they start causing a lot of disruption. So I always like to do a little research on, well, who coined the term? Where'd it come from? So I get an idea how long this problem's been around. Well, there's a British marine biologist, Richard Thompson, and his team back in 2004 noticed in the oceans a lot of these plastic particles, and they came up with this term. They call them microplastic. And so that's where they came from the marine environment. And he and his team discovered it, coined the term, and we've been using it ever since. So from a microplastic pollution perspective, in 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 trillion plastic bags are being used annually. It's obviously a lot larger than 5 trillion nowadays. But we have over almost 400, actually 422 is what I have, but almost 425 million tons of plastics are produced annually. Almost half of them are used once, a single purpose, and throw away. In other words, I open my sandwich bag, put something in there, eat my lunch, open it up, throw the bag away, eat my sandwich. It's a one-use item only. I don't use that sandwich bag over and over and over again for the whole week. But every time I touch and play with that bag, I'm creating little bits of plastic that are flaking off. And for decades, for centuries, the oceans have been used as a dumping ground. And so whatever happens to end up in a lake or a river or whatever usually ends up in the ocean, or the waste water plants end up in the ocean. So we end up today with a lot of issues that we're seeing, seafood and other animals that are polluted with things, not just plastics, but other things, mercury, for instance, and it becomes an issue for our health. I'm not talking today about pollution. I'm not going into any detail about that level, not going into the environmental end of things. That's not my expertise. My expertise is in health and wellness in the human body. So what are your options? Well, the health-wise, you got a good side and a bad side. The bad side is we don't know what microplastics and nanoplastics are actually going to do inside the body. That's still being determined, but we know that they're building up. We can see them. There's a lot more in there now than there ever was. And we're seeing them cause increased problems with lung and respiratory issues, COPD, asthma, cardiovascular disease. Any kind of inflammation is ramped up a little bit. stroke, blood clots, neurological issues, a lot of neurological. I think in the last 8 years, they've seen 50% increase in microplastics detected in the brain, oxidation, reproductive issues, immune system issues, cancers, metabolic issues. In other words, the whole gambit of our health is at risk because these particles get into every single part of our body. And if we don't get rid of them, they stay there and cause a problem. I talked about the sandwich bag. I open it, I end up creating microplastics and nanoplastics because of the friction of that. If I close it, I have additional friction. I'm creating more. So yeah, I have some small ones, but I'm making more because they just flake off. We can't see them. The sandwich bags, if I freeze them, I microwave them. Every time I'm doing something with that plastic container, I'm doing something to create a microplastic or nanoplastic. So where's my biggest exposure? Well, if I grab my water bottle, that's probably the number one. In fact, in a bottle of this size, you're looking at about 250,000 particles of microplastics. 240,000, they say on the average, but 250,000. Depending on what I'm doing, I've seen some estimates for tea bags and things like that. Over 1 million microplastic particles can be created by the process of just normally using them. So I have indoor air that has microplastics all throughout the air. I have plastic bottles that I take and drink out of. I got food packaging materials that I open up and the package material is floating away. Most people have plastic water pipes, UPC, tires, clothing. Everywhere we look, we have some level of plastic being employed. And so you have different kinds of plastics, different sizes, just all sorts of issues with plastics. And the biggest issue with plastics, they don't degrade, they don't disappear. Bigger plastics become smaller plastics. So my microplastics become nanoplastics. And then that becomes a bigger issue because that nanoplastic particle, because it's so small, can pass right through the skin. We talk about nanoparticles primarily in cosmetics. You put on something and it just sucks right through the skin so fast, it's unreal. But once it gets inside the body, it just keeps going. That's what that domino effect is. It just starts and is never ending. We see the cosmetic industry. We know there are 1,200, 1,300 toxins that are not allowed to be used in Europe, that the cosmetic industry, same exact product in the United States, uses them. You pull up the information sheet, label on the product. If it's made in Europe, it may have 6 or 7 ingredients on it. That exact same product, same company, same size, same everything, same packaging. You get it in the United States, the label is going to have 15 or 20 different things, because in the United States, we don't ban those toxins. But as you start having those toxins, they can glump onto the nano or the microplastic, and now they become a more deadly, a more insidious particle inside the body. It's been estimated that most people eat and breathe about 1 credit card size worth of microplastics weekly. I find that to be almost unbelievable. I spend a lot of time, I buy organic, I do this, I do that. And yeah, I'm kind of a little aware of the microplastic, not to the level I am today. And I'm thinking, okay, is it really that much? I'm bringing it in. But again, if I'm 250,000 particles and I'm having 2, 3, 4 of these a day, and I have other issues that are out there too. I have my tea in a container here. I have 6 different teas in there that I do every day. I have a big pot of tea that I go through. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm one who's really kind of, I consider at the outside edge of a lot of things, but maybe it's true. Maybe I am eating or ingesting, breathing in a credit card's amount of stuff over a course of a week. What can I do? Well, obviously one of the best things to do is dust, vacuum on a regular basis. You have carpets, you have rugs, you take them outside, you shake them out. There's a lot of stuff there. We bought our home many years ago. We eventually ended up replacing the carpets with flooring, and I was amazed is not a word that even comes close to describing how much dirt was underneath the carpet. It's just, I'd been there forever and ever. We went to flooring. So I have wood flooring here. I got other flooring, but we have dogs in the house. And so we sweep it down and do a couple, 3 times a week. And there's more than enough stuff. So I'm sitting there, my left hand, I have a small handheld vacuum cleaner. My right hand, I have a broom, and I'm sweeping, get a small pile, vacuum it up. Sweep, get a small pile, vacuum it up. And there's more than a fair amount of dust, more than a fair amount of dog hair. There's more than a fair amount of stuff that's there that, if you're barefoot, you can feel it. If you're not, you don't. But that stuff is there. I have a filter that I use in my bedroom. Usually I turn it on for about 4 hours a day. That does a pretty decent job of keeping the air clean. But once a week, I have to actually mop the floor with something wet. And even that, I can get through 1 or 2 of the pads that I use. And I have to change it out just in one room because there's that much dust, dirt, whatever you want to call it, on the pad that I don't want to be putting more of it back on than I'm taking off. So there are a lot of things we can do, but regular home maintenance of taking care of stuff is a big, big, big deal if you want to counter the microplastic world. Don't microwave in plastic containers. Use glass or ceramic. That's a pretty simple, obvious one. What else can you do? I bought a Zero water filter years ago, and I like them. I fell in love with the commercial where they poured wine into the water filter and everything that came out was clear. So, whoa, that's pretty impressive. But I started doing my checks this week on, does Zero water filters filter out microplastics? No, they don't. And so I started searching other ones. Some of them are pretty expensive. Some of them reverse osmosis and other things. But there are a fair amount of them out there that are not that expensive. And when you start looking at things, where do I want to put my money at? So I'm still doing some research on it. A lot of them are out there. So when I was looking at, they take the filter and you send it back to them, they recycle it. So that's kind of a neat idea. When my daughter moved in a while back, she started us on a new habit of recycling. And we go through a lot of stuff that I never realized that, we actually have that much stuff we recycle every 2 weeks. Our trash can for recycling is full right to the brim. So it's just part of our life. But the water container itself, it's plastic. And as you're putting stuff in, moving things around, again, anytime you start moving something, you're flaking off tiny, tiny bits of plastic. And sometimes you take a look at the test results. Are they what you want? Well, tests can be designed for just about anything. And so you got to kind of be leery. So compare the same apple to the same apple as you're looking at different things when you're getting ready to buy something. Plastic cutting boards. I have several of them. I got a couple of wooden ones, but I prefer the plastic. They're just so much more easily. They're smaller, easy to handle, easier to wash, take care of. But it's one of those things now. I've come to a conclusion. I'm going to have to change my habit on using those. Something I do a lot of cooking, a lot of prep, and something I don't want to do, but I'm going to have to do it. Clothing, polyester, nylon, acrylic, spandex, a lot of plastic in our clothing. If I'm putting that in the washing machine, in the dryer, all of a sudden now that wastewater that's going into the environment actually has a lot of microplastic, nanoplastic pollutions. So there's a lot of things that can be done. The environmental part of the world says, okay, the marine animals ingest this stuff, it gets back into the human world, and now we have that full circle. They have some bags that are available. You can put your, plastic infused clothes in a special bag, and that bag will actually hold the plastics inside, not allow them to go into the wastewater. Buying habits of what are you going to buy? You can get cotton, linen, and other. They say wash smaller loads less frequently, use cold water, less detergent. In my younger days, my mom was, we didn't have a dryer. The clothes dryer was a clothesline. Nowadays we have dryers, and they actually have these things you can put in the dryer that as the plastics are heated up and thrown into the environment of the dryer, they actually reach out and grab a hold of the plastic and they're called Cora bowls or something like that, but they have filter bags and other things. I noticed in the process of preparing for the show today that I can put, maybe it cost me $150, a microplastic filter on my washing machine that the wastewater leaving to go out into the environment will actually be filtered out of a lot of that microplastic. So it's something I can do myself in my house to minimize an environmental issue. We're starting to see other countries mandate that on new, it's like 2030 and on, anything that has manufactured new washer or whatever will have these microplastic filters on them. But most of them can be backdated or upgraded. So it's something I'll look at. Is it worth $150 to me? Probably. Will I make it happen? I don't know. Just one of those things. But I need to find out, number one, can I do it? How much is it going to cost me? And then make a decision from there. But more than likely, if I had to report back in 6 months, I'd say, yeah, probably first of the year, I'll probably have a filter on one. What do they do to you? We talked about a whole bunch of different diseases on the front end. Well, the part of the medical problem is there's no procedure to get rid of them. Basically, you have to let our bodies just get rid of themselves. So there's no recommended do this. Well, there kind of is. They say if you keep your gut healthy and you have a lot of different kinds of fiber, dietary fiber, they act as absorbents and they will actually take a lot of this microplastic and nanoplastic pollution that's accumulating in the gut as part of the normal digestive process of turning things around and glom onto it and then take it out of the body as you're going to the bathroom. Some of the nanoplastic, microplastic, because they can go through the skin as you sweat, you can get rid of some of them that way. But dietary fiber, anything that improves your gut health is of worth. I do more than a fair amount of fiber on a regular basis. And so maybe that's part of my salvation. I do 4 or 5 of these a day and I do my fiber every day. Well, maybe it's balancing it out a little bit. But probiotics, antioxidants, saunas, exercise, a lot of things get things moving and get them out of the system. Biggest problem I see is mindset, awareness. We don't have awareness for what is it really doing to us. Until I did this particular slideshow, I didn't know. I mean, yeah, kind of knew. Yeah, I'm getting particles embedded in my liver and my kidneys and my lungs and everywhere else. But what's it doing? And again, it's a 20-year-old problem. Have we really reached a point where 20 years into smoking, people are realizing it's really a health hazard? I'm not seeing that as much, but in 20 years, it may become a major issue. So you have to ask yourself, what has plastic? What do you use? What can you avoid? What can you replace something with? Can I eliminate my plastic water bottles? Yeah. I also have plastic bottles for diet drinks and things like that. Maybe I need to convert over to cans. I bought some Liquid Death the other night, water, and it's in a can. So maybe I need to look at what other canned water is out there. If I buy a water filter that I use my tap water on, okay, fine. There may be 120 different kinds of pharmaceutical chemicals that are in the water. Are those pharmaceutical chemicals at that micro level also being removed by the water filter? I don't know. I need to find out. That's still part of my research. I haven't done that part yet. But I do need to do something with regard to this one, because 250,000 microplastic particles every time I down one, that's a lot. That's a big number. If I boil water, they're finding that the plastics have a tendency, because of the heat, they start clumping together. But how do I not ingest that clumping? So do I put that boiled water through another filter? Some unknowns. Now, water filters, Google your filter, find out what's there. The Water Quality Association, WQA.org, has a lot of stuff on there with regard to what is and isn't a good system to have. The standard specifically for microplastics this NSF 401. I've got a list of filters that I have printed out here that, okay, these pass that particular standard. Okay, so that's kind of my first list, but do they also filter out other things that I'm interested in? I got to do that research myself. So I've been aware of this for a while. I've just taken no action. Why am I getting concerned about it now? Well, I think the reason most people do. They get older and they're more concerned about their health. So why not? Some foods have a much higher risk of microplastics than others. Seafood, rice, salt, tea bags, bottled water, honey, sugar, a lot of things there that you don't even think about having microplastics in, but because of the nature of the production, they do. Foods that help eliminate or reduce microplastic pollution: oats, legumes, berries, cruciferous vegetables, green tea, dark chocolate, apples, healthy fats, your organic stuff, your unprocessed foods, and basically any kind of foods that support gut health. Now, when I was thinking about that earlier, one of the things that occurred to me was, okay, I want good gut health. Well, it got me back to about 20 years ago. I was with a mentor at that time, and he was talking about, how do you become wealthy? How do you become rich? He says, look at the things rich people do and do those. Look at the things poor people do and don't do those. And so I kind of adopted that early in my health and wellness. I said, you want to be healthy? Look at the things healthy people do that. Look at the things unhealthy people do, don't do that. But the same thing applies. Even if I'm looking at a subset of whatever I have, I'm looking at gut health, heart health, brain health. What is good, but there's a lot of bad things that are out there too. So you have to do the good, but you have to stop doing the bad. So, but when I get down to the cellular level in the body, what's going on? The size determines a problem because the smaller it is, more places it can go, but the shape causes a problem. And so if I have a lot of sharp edges on something, now those sharp edges are just like little knives and they're at the cellular level, creating problems. Different kinds of plastics create problems on their own. Sometimes the plastics can adhere to toxins, and so now I not only have the plastic, but I have the toxin on that plastic material. A lot of issues are popping up now because of the interest of people wanting to know more. And just like any other aspect of our lives, one size does not fit all. So you give me one solution, stop drinking water out of bottles. Okay, that may fix that problem, but it doesn't fix all problems associated with it. So so when I have a lot of these microplastic and nanoplastic pollutants in my body, it activates essentially three different aspects of my life. Inflammation, which I don't want. That's basically the cause, the genesis of literally every disease we have. So at the DNA level, I start getting a lot of inflammation. I get mutations. If I don't have enough antioxidants to control that level, I don't have a strong enough immune system, that mutation is going to create a problem down the road. Well, part of that problem down the road is additional inflammation unchecked at the cellular level is going to result in oxidation. And that's where you start seeing your tumors starting to develop and other things out there that become a problem. So I go from an inflammatory condition, which has some level of control through your diet and stuff, your lifestyle practices. Now I start getting into an oxidative stress situation, which is really a much stronger force on the body from a negative perspective. And because I start seeing this happening inside the cell, because the nanoparticles can get in there, I'm starting to see some level of autophagy being brought on because the cell needs to clean itself. So now I'm starting to see mitochondrial dysfunction, a major problem we talked about in the last several weeks, dealing with aging, apoptosis, the term they use for cellular death, but it's programmed cellular death, not ad hoc. So if I start having these nanoparticles in my cells, they're starting to disrupt my mitochondria, they're starting to cause DNA mutations, then they're also starting to cause the cell to accelerate its death date. And now I start having cells that are killing themselves at an earlier time. Kidney and liver, they process so much stuff. They're the most at risk. Lung cells probably number 3. When I started looking at the brain specifically as an area of microplastics, one of the things that caught me by surprise was the fact that microplastics found in the brain are up about 50% just over the last 8 years. Pretty impressive number. We live in a world of plastics. It's nothing we can do about it. We have some level of control, and just like just about anything else out there, we have options for home testing, blood and urine. So I can get a kit for microplastics. I stick my finger, put the blood on there, send it to the lab. They got the advanced equipment to test everything. And so somewhere between $150 and $800, a lot of variables in there, but I can get a personal test on what is my body like today. Is that worth it to you? I don't know. It's not a lot of money, but it's certainly a significant amount. But it's something that's there. Now, if you start using that same thing, what about the commercial water treatment plants? Most of them are not treating that. But if you were to do testing on that, the price doubles or triples. It's just interesting. But typically we tend to go on the mantra, well, if I don't know about it, it's not going to hurt me. But how many people have you heard about that all of a sudden they find out they got 6 months to live because they have a tumor the size of a baseball? Never knew they had it. Well, they didn't know it is hurting them. So it's maybe something to be aware of. Maybe start taking that proactive action now to minimize something because you're aware of it. That, I think, is the first thing. Where do you stand on the level of this domino falling down? Can you get out ahead of it and stop it? And that's part of the educational process. And then when you're actually stopping some dominoes, that's the action. So is there something you should think about? Absolutely. Some countermeasures cost little to nothing. Again, can you absorb those costs into your monthly budget? I think a lot of them you can. You spend $50 for something and maybe it lasts for 6 months. That's a fairly good return on your investment if it's getting rid of something that is there. If you start mopping the floor twice a week rather than once a week, that's little or no extra cost, but it's certainly extra time. So there are a lot of things that can be done. And again, today's presentation was to get you to that awareness level. And depending on how things go down the road, maybe you'll take a little bit further. And Dr. Google and Dr. YouTube will certainly help you a lot with regard to what can be done and what other options you might have. That being said, I'm a little early today, which is fine. I knew I would be. So take care, y'all, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dies. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.